we were able to, we had gotten a whole bunch of signatures on a huge poster at the our Peace Council Craft Fair in December, and we had them for our 2 senators and our representative, urging them to sign on to the letter to and support back from the brink. And so we were able to get the aid from Senator Schumer to come and accept this huge poster. So we did this all. We stuck to a half hour. It was so freezing, but we had, I would say, at least what would 20, 30 people, Diane, would how?
I think probably at least 30. There might have been a few more than that.
And this is where?
Syracuse.
Oh.
New York.
Syracuse, New York.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
And I could just add a couple of quick things. The whole thing is on our Facebook page, so you can look at that. And I'm trying to think of a way to get the talk that the student gave circulated and use it in some way to try to involve more young people, because it was really, really striking and excellent. So if there are ideas about that later, we could talk about that.
Okay. I'll go. Susan, you go ahead and go first.
Well, you could go before me if you like. Or
okay.
Okay.
Okay. I wrote a letter to the editor of the Eugene Register Guard, which was published on Saturday. But I also sent that letter to Peace Voice, which gets it out to a lot of other places. And one of the places it was published was in Counterpunch, which was pretty useful, I thought. And I'll post a link to that in a minute. Also, it's just random as to where this happens, but the Augusta Free Press picked it up and published it on several different websites, and also the Trenton Sun picked it up. So I'll put a link to that in the chat in a second. The other thing that I did, which was also pretty interesting, was I went to the city council on Monday, yesterday, and asked them to do a back from the brink type resolution. And I had prepared it by sending people that I knew that I'd already talked to about this in the past, counselors who I talked to them about it, but they hadn't really followed up. I sent them my testimony with links and stuff like that. And then I sent it to the whole council just the day of. And so I gave my testimony, and the mayor, to my, whom I really had counted as a supporter, said, well, we're gonna do something about this. We're gonna pass it on to the staff and get them together with you and have something come back pretty soon. And I was really quite pleased with that, because the mayor is a good guy and we get along just fine, but I wouldn't necessarily expect him to be a supporter of this particular thing. But apparently he's prepared to be. And one of the other counselors wrote me immediately after the meeting was over and said, "Thank you for bringing this to us." And so I have high hopes for this being adopted by the Salem City Council soon.
Salem, Oregon.
Salem, Oregon City Council, yes.
And Peter, did you say Augusta, Georgia, and Trenton, New Jersey had picked up your article?
Well, it was the Trenton Sun, which I assume is in Trenton, New Jersey, and the Augusta Free Press, and I'm not sure exactly where that is, because when I looked it up, it wasn't.
Might be Maine.
Well, that's what my wife said. It could be Maine. So Don't know, to be frank.
Huh. Wow.
But either place would be fine.
Oh.
So anyway, so I was pleased with those two things. So I'll put the link in the chat and pass it on to you, Susan.
Okay, great work.
Thank you.
So on the 22nd, we had a wonderful program with Asha Ashokan, Zee Mian, and Ira Helfand. Excellent program. And this was looking at, again, it was the twin existential threats, nuclear weapons, and climate change. Wonderful program, great discussion. Then let's see. Oh, just in my town, my city, we had a letter that was written, got into the local newspaper, and I'll try to send that on. And that was by Eileen Karkowski, who's a member of WILF. And church rang the bells, and they put up big poster, the big sign. There were other events in other parts of Massachusetts, in the western part of Massachusetts also.
Great. Okay, so we know that people present on the call had some pretty good activities, and Ellen, I think you put up something that showed us what was happening other places. Anybody have an overall count of how many actions were taken?
Hey, can I give you a share of what I did out here?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I didn't see your hand. Oh, yeah, there, your hand's up. Sorry.
Good to go last. I'm furiously typing notes. So many cool things happening. I find myself doing things I don't even know I'm doing anymore, and it takes these meetings to bring it out. I work for a large consulting company, Deloitte and Touche, and they sent out their kind of stripped down version of supporting MLK Day, and asked us to tell them what we were doing as a day on instead of day off. So I wrote a letter and basically said, King was also militarism and capitalism, things like that. And so I wrote the CEO of our federal practice back, and I said, King and his wife were in WILF. I'm a member of WILF, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, I wondered what Deloitte could do to further this effort around the TPNW. And I said, we're heavily invested. Our 401k is with Vanguard, heavily invested in nuclear weapons. And I said, do you want to work with me on a divestment project? Use our influence to divest in Vanguard, and also I don't know what's in our pension fund, but I'm trying to get that information. So no response back yet. I've written other things to this guy, less controversial, probably taking less money out of their pocket because they probably work for these weapons manufacturers, et cetera. So that was fun. I'm waiting to hear back, see if anything happens there. And then tomorrow, prior to all this, I had contacted the Phoenix City Council, my representative, and I've gotten some good guidance. I'm going to go tomorrow to the city council meeting and exercise my 3 minutes. Basically, Peter, similar to what you did. I was encouraged to hear what you said. I was kind of feeling lonely, a team of one right now, but I'm going to go use my 3 minutes and say, can you provide resources so we can work on a resolution? So that's my report. Thanks.
Well, that's great.
Would you like a copy of the resolution from the Davis City Council to use as a guide?
Sure. I've been using the Tucson, Arizona has passed this, and I've been talking with Kathy Altman on her experience. So I've got that, but anything else that anybody has to offer is certainly helpful. I would accept any help.
Okay, great. Judy, then Cherrill, and then Susan. Judy?
Oh, I'm sorry. What? On what, please?
You had your hand up, didn't you?
No, I ended up just to say what I said.
Okay.
I was
All right, Cherrill then?
Just wanted.
You asked how many actions you think happened, and just going by the ICANN calendar that I drove people to by writing to all kinds of listservs I'm on, and adding, there was one listed from Scotland where the nuclear submarines are, and one in Italy. I'd say 35 or so, not the 200 that what Ralph Hutchinson thought we would do, and the ones that actually were actions where people were there rather than people writing letters. Now, obviously, a lot of you wrote letters, which could be considered actions, but they wouldn't have been on the ICANN calendar. So I would say I was a bit disappointed in what because I went to that calendar 3 or 4 times a day to check that people were putting things on and counting up. And then as soon as the date had passed, it disappears off the calendar. So you had to be looking like from the Wednesday onwards. So I reckon about 35. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Susan?
Right. I have no opinion about that. But the breakout session that I was talking about is also going to deal with divestment. So Bruce, when you talked about possible divestment, I see your name as Bruce S., but would love to be in touch with you, or if you are interested in finding out what other people are doing with divestment. So there'll be somebody from Code Pink, a lot of people talking about divestment in that. So I just have Bruce S. But what is your last name, Bruce?
It's Shay. I just changed it. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Okay, Ellen.
Yeah, hi. In Asheville, which is about an hour from where I live, and I'm wondering if I have COVID, and I didn't go, but I asked people to take photographs. There were about a dozen people who showed up with a whole bunch of wonderful signs, and one of the things that they're working on is trying to stop Raytheon, which is building a facility on the French Broad River, spanning the French Broad River, and people are very upset about that. And they had Wilk signs and the yellow banner and all sorts of good stuff. And it's all on the Wilk Smart Facebook page. That's WILPF SMART. I've been posting the photographs that have come from all over the country to us from Wilk members and allies. And I also have been trying to post those same things to the Nuclear Ban Treaty Days of Action Facebook page.
Okay. Great, thank you. Is that about it for what people want to report back on the 122 actions? Okay, let's move along. The TikTok project actually has moved forward a little bit because I've been waiting for some younger people to get around to something. I've tried working with 3 in 2 different places. Most recently, Amy O'Brien, some of you probably know her from the Snake River Alliance, said, I'd really like to help with this, and this is right in my wheelhouse, so I'm going to see what I can do. And she is working closely with one of those young people that I was talking about. So she wrote me yesterday that several ideas, and we traded some ideas, and they said that she thought that they could film by sometime next week. So although we didn't get it done in time for 122, which had been my original hope, it looks like something is moving forward with that. And so I'm quite pleased about that. Also, there's a couple of people working out of the International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War up in Massachusetts that have been in touch with me and said that they would like to help. And so we're going to have a little Zoom call about it sometime soon.
What was the name of that organization for the notes? What was the name?
IPPNW, International Physicians for the Prevention of Nuclear War. And that's the international organization that PSR is part of. So yeah, that's what's happening on the videos from my end. Judy, do you have anything to report about that UC Davis group?
Yes, I do. I've been working with a young man who's presenting it to the ASUCD Senate. And he and I are going to meet one more time because he didn't have as much time as we needed to really put all of our ideas together. He is so positive that it's going to pass. He is absolutely convinced that the majority of the Senate are going to vote for it, if not all of them. And he agreed, since this is on TikTok, that he hadn't thought of it himself, but I mentioned that our group was interested in him doing a TikTok after they pass it, if they pass it. He said, yes, they'll pass it. We'll see. And he said, yes, he would work on it. And I am very ignorant when it comes to exactly how to do a TikTok, but I will keep urging him and keep mentioning it and make sure that, again, indeed he does do it. If he does do it, do we want to promote it as a group? Do we?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if he does a TikTok, which I told him it's got to be something really interest grabbing. And once the resolution passes, I would think that would be pretty interest grabbing in itself. And they can do something on that is, you know, hey, you students, hey, you other campuses, hey, you know, this kind of thing. Let's get this ball rolling here already. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but something of that effect would be very nice.
So whose Senate, remind us, whose Senate are you talking about?
ASUCD Senate resolution.
This is the University of California.
Davis, correct.
University of California at Davis, right? Basically.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's the student Senate or the students have a Senate.
Yes, yes. Okay. He was elected to the Senate and took this ball immediately and ran with it. So he's very enthused about it.
So the resolution is to support TPNW.
Oh, well, that is part of it. What they want is to have the campus declare itself a nuclear-free zone. And of course, part of that is in his resolution, they mentioned the treaty in the resolution.
And I'm wondering if it would be useful to connect some of the other student chapters with them.
That's what I mean in the long run. If they pass it,
yeah,
that's where you take it off. That's where you can take off with the TikTok, with whatever other. I'm sure he'd be in charge of something like that, or the ASUCD would do it.
Well, Judy, I'd appreciate it if you'd give him my email address and ask him to get in touch if they actually do a TikTok.
Sure. Do you want me to? Why don't I just send you a copy of the resolution also?
That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, but we'll see. You know, it hasn't passed yet. So I love his enthusiasm. I love his optimism. He's something. So we'll see what happens. And again, he will take off with a TikTok as soon as it passes.
Well, that's great.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
That's great. Okay, well, let's move along to a possible action on the nuclear posture review. I can't remember who wanted to talk about that. Was it you, Cherrill?
No, I was actually going to say a little bit more on the TikTok.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
Just recently, WILF, the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, has hired, as per our employees, 2 people to help us with social media and with getting out things to the main media. Okay. And they are working on Instagram and tweeting. And so some of you may know that the NGOs, a big collaboration of NGOs, wrote a long statement to the NPT. We thought there was going to be a conference about the Non-Proliferation Treaty. We had this long statement. It takes 55 minutes. It took 55 minutes for 13 people to read it. which you can see on Vimeo. They've also now cut it into 1 minute snips with different people. And so my people and my now paid experts in this, I hope, are picking up. I told them, go ahead, go here and pick up these 1 minute videos, which are reading parts of the articles of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and, you know, turn it on into Instagram. They should also try to turn it into TikTok. I know that, and I know I can see he's having conversations with people who are hosting this on Vimeo. Apparently, you can't put a Vimeo link in a TikTok. You can't say, well, there's a link over here. You actually have to have it on your iPhone. Anyway, so just to say that now Wilf has decided to hire these two people who are expert in this kind of thing. And so we are trying to get more things out using other people's snippets. So I actually have not asked him about TikTok. So Ellen, have you asked John Sepulveda about we sending some TikTok videos, or do you know Ellen Thomas? Is she there? Is she there? Okay, maybe she's not there. She is.
I have not. I have
Right.
not.
Do you think it's? Shall we mention it to them? Okay. I think the more.
Are you asking for them to create them or just to share them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if they're willing to create them. It would be a general question. Well, and
I mean,
you know,
you can talk to them about it, but
Right.
but it's time consuming, and they're getting paid for it. So
okay. Well, maybe they could help Peter at some level with his efforts. Anyway, it's just a thought.
Yeah, I'd love the help.
Yeah, right. Okay. That's it.
Well, John's an enthusiastic person, and he's a member of WILP, and he might, you know, we can see if we can connect you with him. Remind me, Cherrill.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, who was it that wanted to talk about the nuclear posture review? Deafening silence.
But we do know something about it.
Does everybody know that that Veterans for Peace has come out with an alternative?
Yeah, that was great.
I can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's been written up in some places. I don't know if anybody sent it to Democracy Now, but it'd be really great if they would do something with it. And it supports HR 2850, among other wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
Susan?
Just to announce that we're going to be having a webinar about that, the Veterans for Peace statement and the nuclear posture review on February 11th, or, you know, I can send you the exact date, but that's planned. So, yes, it was a wonderful.
Is that the second Friday meeting?
No, it's a webinar, and you know, I have to look in my notes, and maybe I'll do that before this meeting is over, and I'll give you the exact date. But that's a Mass Peace Action webinar, along with the Veterans for Peace. You know, so it's being planned with Veterans for Peace.
Speaking of Democracy Now, it shows up much earlier on the East Coast than it does here. I can't get to see it till 9 o'clock at night. But apparently today's Democracy Now on the TV has quite a lot about nuclear weapons. And so find out when it's showing on your PBS and watch it.
You should watch it. It's really important. It's got a lot of good stuff in there.
Right.
You can just watch it online.
Right. Oh, if I didn't have 5 other things to do. Right.
Or you can do it later.
In your sleep.
Okay. Apparently nobody here is planning any action other than this webinar around the nuclear posture review, so I'm not sure why we're putting it on the agenda, but
Well, maybe we should come up with something. Are we positioned to actually send out a press release, or I mean, amongst us, apparently we have some good writers, people who get things published. Is it?
Do we want to reinvent the wheel, though? Veterans for Peace put a lot of effort into this.
I think it might be almost over, actually, isn't it? Isn't it in January they were going to hold the nuclear posture review?
It's not finished yet.
Oh,
right. What I meant, Ellen, was that we could write a little, press release and point to the Veterans for Peace.
Oh, yeah.
Peace. Right. Not that we, that if Peter's got an in with the Georgia, whatever, Augusta thingamajiggle, use your contacts with your local newspapers, I suppose is.
Well, it's almost universal that they won't, that no newspaper will publish 2 op-eds in 1 month.
Yeah, I know, but the rest of us, apparently, PSR this morning in the Delaware newspaper have a 1-page ad about TPNW and what have you. It's the Delaware paper that President Biden reads when he's home in Delaware with 1,000 signatories. I just got PSR, I'm on their email list now. And I must say that on the inauguration week, I had the same idea to put an ad in the Delaware, whatever it's called. And I actually went as far as finding the advertising company and establishing how many $1,000 it was going to cost me. And in the end, I didn't do it. But that's one way of getting the public's attention, is to put big ads in your local newspaper. Our climate people did that the other day, asking, they had 400 people who vowed to take their divestments out, their investments out of certain banks in the Bay Area that they know invest in coal and so on. And it was very impressive. It's the second page. You open up your local paper. It's an enormous thing. And all these people who had signed that. And so apparently the PSR did the same. They chose to do it in the Delaware newspaper. And as usual, when you actually get in one newspaper, you often get in others because they have these arrangements. Anyway, they got 1,000 people to sign theirs. So you can imagine how long it actually took them to do this. The PSR is quite a large organization. So anyway.
A much cheaper way to do that kind of thing is to buy Facebook ads.
Okay, you reach, I don't know who you reach. You only reach, I don't know how those work because I don't do Facebook.
Well,
but you only reach the people who already were. It's like preaching to the choir, or can you reach the other people?
You can target them in a lot of different ways. And, it's much cheaper and probably more effective in terms of actually causing things to happen in the real world.
You filter geographically, right? Geographically, you can filter. Geographically, you can filter with.
Yes, I think so.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how
I wonder if you can limit it to a certain congressional district.
Yeah, I haven't done that for a while now, so I can't remember how that worked back when I did it, and it's probably changed anyway. So, but a little bit of investigation would turn that up pretty quickly.
Yeah. How expensive is that? I mean, what kind of dollars are you talking for Facebook ads?
Well, you pay by the impression. So, like it's pennies per impression or something like that. So, when you put something in a paper like that, it goes to everybody, and you have absolutely no idea whether anybody read it or not.
Well, if it's a full page ad, it kind of hits you in the face as you turn the page. But anyway,
Well, I'll tell you how many full page ads I ignore in the newspaper when I read it. You know, and so yes, I mean, that used to be something that we always did was signature ads in newspapers. But now that we have social media, you know, I think there's an argument to be made that there's a lot more bang for the buck on social media. Bruce?
I saw that World Beyond War is having a billboard program, anti-war.
Yeah.
Billboards. It's pretty
interesting. I mean, that's been going on for some time now, and I'm seriously underwhelmed by that.
Okay.
So, more about the NPR? In talking about the NPR, I was wondering if anybody knew what the strategy behind the Veterans for Peace effort was, or any of these others. I mean, what are we going to do about it? Because the NPR is written by the Pentagon, right? And then, you know, it goes through the administration. And so what are we trying to do with it? Are we trying to undermine its credibility? Are we trying to change what gets written in it? And how do we think we're going to do anything connected with that?
Well, I really don't have all answers to all your questions, but I think it's just another effort to get an alternative point of view out. And I think it's connected in my mind. And I must admit, I have not read their alternative posture, but I'm sure it points out that our president has sole authority to set off nuclear missiles. And so you want the public to understand just how awful a thought that is. And we actually got that thought when we had a previous president that people realized was a little crazy, and that he could do some severe damage. And, you know, even Nancy Pelosi got a hold of that. And so for a few days it was in the newspapers, right? Yep. Oh my God. But it's actually one of the 5 policies of the Back from the Brink resolutions is to take away sole authority from the president and have some other kind of committee structure that has to okay the pressing of the button, so to speak. So I see it just as a, you know, it's a advertising, press, get it in the media kind of thing. I don't know that, you know, they're going to influence anybody who actually is sitting in that committee working on it.
Susan?
At our last, when was this? Maybe last weekend, our nuclear disarmament working group meeting, Joe Gerson, I don't know if you know Joe Gerson, it was his task to report on both the NPR and on the Ukraine. And he did that very well, very concisely. And we were all bummed out after what he had to say, because it was pretty bleak, right? In terms of the reality, which is what he really led us on. And I guess you will, you know, I have to tell you all about the reality of what the Biden administration's where they are going, the more aggressive, hawkish bent to that, and that we thought maybe we could get no first use that Biden was saying we would do, and that Joe feels that that's sort of gone. Sole use may be a possibility, but probably not. But then there were various people who came up with, okay, what can we do about it? And so, there was, we should write to Biden and say what we want in the posture review. So write letters. I think that was probably it. I don't know. David, were you at that meeting? Can you think of anything more?
Well, actually, Joe Gerson did send out an email after that with a more positive view of what could solve the situation.
What, in the Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah, about the Ukraine, right? In terms of making it sort of independent of both Russia and the United States allies, and NATO, independent of NATO and Russia. But the nuclear posture review, he felt pretty bleak about. Right. So it was, somebody said, take 5 minutes and write a letter, call Biden and say, this is what you want the nuclear posture review to have in it. But I
have an idea on that, because I don't know that I wrote it in my letter, but the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons would resolve the whole thing. If you can write him and say, look, no more of this nuclear posture review holding, no more of this, get rid of these weapons already type thing. There's a treaty out there you could sign. You become a hero if you hold a conference between China, Russia, United States, Korea, North Korea, all the nuclear states involved. Just hold a conference and come to an agreement on how you're going to sign this treaty, dream on. But I mean, this kind of approach, I think, might be a good one, instead of trying to say, how can we revise the nuclear posture review? There shouldn't have to be a nuclear posture review, is my feeling. Is if they got onto the treaty, we just get rid of the nuclear weapons.
True, we do that also.
Yeah,
calling him,
did they mention that?
Sending him letters. We did a what we called a Christmas letter or a holiday letter, and or if you procrastinated, like me, it was a
Happy New Year letter
for the new year. I, as a grandmother of 4, TPNW. So yeah, right.
That's something we could pursue. Is look at the nuclear posture review as an opportunity to say no more of this review, and you can get rid of the review. You won't have to waste your time on it, or spend your time on it.
Ellen, on your chat. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry. Well, I think there's a strategic question in talking about things like this, as to whether you want to do as Judy was saying, and demand the whole ball of wax, or whether you want to say, well, here's what we'd like to see in your nuclear posture review, and then have it be kind of incremental. And I think there's a strategic discussion that needs to be held among people like us as to whether a strategic approach is a good one. Whether an incremental approach is a good one, or whether we should just constantly be demanding the whole ball of wax. And I think there's arguments to be made both ways. But I think tactically, adopting a tactic before we have a strategy is always a bad idea. Say, oh, well, it's like the guy who was under a street lamp looking for his quarter, and a friend comes along and says, what are you looking for? He says, well, I dropped a quarter. He says, well, where did you drop it? And he says, well, about a half a block up that way. He says, well, what are you looking for it here for? Well, the light's better. So that kind of tactic ain't going to work, right?
So our group, is called the Legislators and Localities group, right? Which means one of our general strategies is to be talking to our legislators within a certain geographic area. It's kind of how I would characterize our group, because we know there are other working groups who are tackling the TPNW support in different ways. So I would say we have, so this idea that we have resolutions that we try to get our city councils to pass is one of our strategies that we already have, and that maybe, and by and large, those resolutions, I think, ask for the TPNW. They are reaching for total abolition. I don't, or maybe not all of them. Maybe some of them are just saying, "Oh, no first use," So that's a question. Should our resolutions that we're trying to get our city councils to pass just ask for total abolition of nuclear weapons, get rid of them, and not pussyfoot around these little steps along the way?
Well, ours will be hopefully based on the one that was passed by the state of Oregon, and it calls for both,
Exactly.
which I think is the way to go.
Exactly.
It says we ought to do this, 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 and this on the way to this.
Right.
But it's the importance of keeping the on the way to this in there that I think is really key.
Yeah, and in fact, Ira Helfen, I sort of revised the back from the brink, and initially it was set out that they were steps, and number 5 was join the treaties, and they then revised it, and it is now the first, and so the back from the brink resolution at this point, if you have cities and towns to do the back from the brink, that is really the TPNW. And so, and although initially it was, so all kinds of treaties, they have now really focused more on, or thinking more of the TPNW, the use of that. Other treaties too, but that's been a movement.
And also our committee is called L&L TPNW. And the reason I joined this committee is because that was where my interest lay, is I thought we were going to be dealing with the TPNW, not exclusively, but almost exclusively, because there are other committees dealing with the other parts, probably like no first strike or no first use, et cetera, which are important. I'm not saying you ignore them, but I have seen I've seen some people coming out arguing for no first use without even mentioning the treaty. And that, to me, I wish everybody would start mentioning the treaty, even if it's not, as you were saying, this is a number 5 at first. At least mention it, keep mentioning it, so that more and more people become aware of it. So
go ahead, David.
Yeah, Judy, you've given me the opportunity to say that nuclear ban has been focusing really primarily on getting preferably 100 congressional signatures as a means of putting it on the mainstream. And so I will send to the localities and legislators a little letter with a template letter to send to your Congress people, because we've been having a hard time getting to constituents, because if you go to your representative online, you've got to show that you're a constituent in his district or her district. So I'll send it to you all, and you can send the legislative pledge to your representative and to your 2 senators. And by the way, Peter, could you send also? You said that Oregon has a resolution on this. Did you say?
Yes.
Could you send that to the group, please? The email. or is it easy to give
Yeah,
me a
I'd be
URL on
happy
it?
to, but perhaps even more useful is going to the preventnuclearwar.org page where they have all of them listed, and you can click on any one of them and see the wording.
And also, our group, we got a resource page, right? And then in that resource pages, we have a spreadsheet of 74 cities that have passed the resolutions of various kinds. And if you want to, and many of them actually do link back to the nuclear, the Back from the Brink, which is not called backfromthebrink.org, it's called something else, preventnuclearwar.org.
Right.
But there are other resolutions that are listed in that spreadsheet. So if you want, because I had to find that yesterday, I'll find it again. I'm going to put that. Do you remember that, Peter? This was something that was done a year and a half ago.
Yes.
And I find it very helpful to point it out to people. Do you want me to go look for it?
Well, I'm putting in the chat right now the link to the Prevent Nuclear War list.
Right. And let me put.
And if you, David, if you go to that, it's got a little, logos for each state and city. And if you click on those, it will show you the wording.
David, when you say the pledge, are you talking about the ICANN pledge?
There,
That's
yes.
right. Yes, it is. Yeah.
The ICANN pledge, yes. All you have to do is
Yeah.
go to ICANN website to find it. They have the pledge and they have the city's appeal. They have both. They have two resolutions.
Yes, and states.
So what I'm going to put in the chat as soon as I find it is a list. There's 74 cities, and there are 3 columns, and it tells you exactly.
Put it in there.
Oh, God, you're faster than. Thank you. You're faster than me.
Okay, well, I see Bruce has got his hand up, so let's go there.
Thanks. I just this is not meant to be derogatory in any way. It's just an observation. There's so much overlap between what groups do. It doesn't feel like we spend our time as efficiently as we could. What I liked about what Nuclear Ban US had done is we put this terms of reference together, and it very specifically laid out the things that we were going to do. And David's come on board as the new executive director, and the direction of that collaborative working group now is to focus on the 100 congressional pledges. It would seem like with localities and legislators, it would seem like we would want to make the focus of this group, the cities and towns and maybe states, and focus our conversations around that. I mean, I've heard maybe it was Seth Sheldon, maybe it was Beatrice Finn talk about the importance of having cities and towns and its impact on other countries and things like that are saying, well, U.S. doesn't even recognize the treaty as being valid, but there are cities and towns within the U.S. that do, and it promotes and it has some level of influence on other countries who do want to consider it. So I'm just making an observation. I'm wondering if maybe a terms of reference type of document that, like we did with the Nuclear Ban US collective group, wonder if that would make sense as kind of moving into item 6, other new collaborative project ideas. I wonder if we would build a terms of reference for this group and make sure that there's not so much overlap between what the two groups do. And I think it was Judy had the specific reasons for joining, and we stay true to the mission of the particular group that people are joining. That's a full stop. Observation.
Bruce, would you be willing to draft a terms of reference kind of document that we could look at next time?
I would be willing to draft it. I don't know if I could have it. Well, when's our next meeting? We're meeting once a month.
Well, we'll come to that in a second, but yeah, usually once a month.
I will make every effort to try and put one together. Peter, I'd probably want to give you a call and just have a one-on-one conversation quickly?
That'd be great.
Down that?
That'd be great. And I'm not proposing that you write anything that would be our final word on this, but just, you know, I find it's very difficult to come up with a document of that kind unless you have something that you can shoot at, as it were.
That's where I thrive, putting up things that people can shoot at. That's I'm good at that.
Poor language in a group like this, but anyway.
Makes sense to me.
Before it gets too late, let's make sure that we get to the next meeting before we lose anybody. And I know Holly, who's just joined us, will have something she wants to say about that. So, Holly, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Well, I just want to share that on Tuesdays, I teach a class, and so I'm not available until after 6. I don't get home till after 6, so it's usually about 6:30 before I'm able to join. So that's why I've been absent and late, and it's not that I'm skipping out. So I just, that's kind of my reality. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I'm not home until after 6 because I teach classes.
Is that 6 Eastern time? What time zone are you?
Eastern time, yes. Yes, 6
So
Eastern.
we've been meeting at 5:30 Eastern time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if we met at 6:30 Eastern time, you could make it.
Yeah.
How do other people feel about that? Cherrill?
Well, I have some other standing meetings on Tuesdays at 5, but it tends to be the first Tuesday of the month. Okay. Ellen and I both have to go to a meeting of the WILF program committee. It's the first Tuesday at 5 Pacific time, 8 o'clock your time. So anyway,
the fourth Tuesday would not be affected by
so
that.
if you can make it, yes, the 4th Tuesday, that would be okay with me by and large.
Joan, you had your hand up.
Well, what time would it be Eastern time?
Ollie, what time would you like it?
Eastern time, 6:30 would work. I could do
So
that.
that would be 3:30.
That makes it hard on me. I have a meeting in California that I have to be there by 6, and
Yeah.
On Tuesdays.
Well, that's
on Tuesdays.
3:30 to 6 would be a long time for us.
Yeah.
I have a Wilf board meeting at 8 p.m., which is 5 p.m. California time on the 4th Tuesday.
Okay, anybody got a
I
proposed?
guess if it only lasts an hour, I could do it.
Susan?
If it could be 6 o'clock Eastern, I could do it, I think. You'd make it an awfully wham bam.
What about a doodle poll?
So that'd be 3 o'clock Western, right?
That'd be 3 o'clock, right, my time, Pacific time.
3:30 Western.
Not 3:30, I could
No,
not.
3 o'clock is what,
Well, I could do 3:30, but I'd leave early.
okay.
If we're planning to meet for about an hour to an hour and a half,
Yeah, that'd be different.
then 3:30 Western time would clear for not 5 o'clock meetings Western time.
Yeah, that
And
would
8
be,
o'clock meetings Eastern.
if we did not meet for 2 hours, if we met for an hour and a half, I could do it.
And
Right.
Ellen, was that a problem for you?
I can, yeah. Joan and I are on the same.
And
meeting,
Cherrill.
The 4th. And Cherrill.
No,
On the board meeting?
no, I'm not at the board meeting. I'm on the program committee, which also meets on a different Tuesday every month. But
Yeah.
but 3:30 Pacific time, 6:30 Eastern time, I think, as long as it's an hour and a half, and Peter's very good at keeping us to an hour and a half, I think that will help Holly.
Yeah,
Anybody
but so other people have back-to-back meetings, and I guess I feel like that's a lot to ask.
So,
too.
that's okay. I'm going to go to one at 4 o'clock. We have something out of Stanford about the,
Okay. So we're looking at at 3 or 3:30 now?
Would 3 be good for you, Holly?
What?
6 o'clock?
6:30 would be better, she
6:30
said.
would be better, but if it was 6 o'clock, it would be easier. Yeah, I could live with that. I can live with that.
Susan?
I often have webinars or programs that I'm involved in somehow on Tuesdays, well, many days of the week at 7 o'clock. So I could go for part of it. If it was at 6:30, I could, go for a half hour. So it is, then we get into going to another day of the week at this time, but that's a lot of work. And I was trying to follow you, but I'm not good in higher math about what's Eastern time and California time.
3-hour difference.
Yeah, I know.
No, she's doing it in her head.
When you're talking as well, okay.
Susan, if it were at 3 o'clock instead of 2:30 Western time, which would mean 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Eastern time, could you do it?
Yeah. I could do it for an hour. Yeah.
Okay, well, it sounds like that's the best compromise. That would be a little harder for Holly, a little bit easier for Susan. And so shall we go with fourth Sunday at
Tuesday?
Fourth Tuesday. That's all we need is a little bit more confusion. Fourth Tuesday at 3/6. And whatever intervening time that turns out to be. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I really like Holly. And I like to hear what you're doing, Holly. So we will have an overlap.
Yes, and if you need to come half an hour late, at least be there for the whole hour or hour and a half more of the meeting.
We'll connect in the middle.
Right.
So
Okay.
I actually have a question. Last time Ellen talked about setting up a YouTube channel specifically for videos.
I did it.
You did it. Could you give us a link to it in the chat? So we have you actually put anything up?
Don't disappear yet.
Okay, because the idea was we would put these recordings and maybe some other things up there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's great.
And Ellen,
Good catch.
Good
catch, Cherrill.
No, but good catch, Ellen. She actually did it.
Well, I think she sent us an email about that, but I had forgotten about it.
I'll find it in just a second. I have to go to a different program. So.
Well, so in the last 10 minutes or so, any other collaborative project ideas that people have been thinking about that would fit into the L&L terms of reference, as Bruce is going to tell us what they are next time.
Well, I think, just along the lines of resolutions and stuff, supporting mayors for peace is another action that our group, I think, should be doing. They are aiming for 10,000 cities worldwide, and they're up, I think, 8,000 and some. Anyway, so if we could get more of our cities to be, they call them mayors for peace, but usually it's the city council who has to agree, not just the mayor. That's another very international effort and along the same lines.
Right.
Right. It doesn't have to be a mayor. If it's a town that has a town council that runs the town, right? There is that, and they work really well together. If you have one, you can get the other, and vice versa. That's good. Also, divestment is another thing that cities and towns can do.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Good point.
We're working in my area. I live in a very rural county, but we're an hour from Rochester, New York, which is a fairly large city. And I have a friend there on the city council that I am going to draft a letter to approach her about drafting about a resolution. Rochester is already a Mayors for Peace city, so that's like something that I can use as leverage. But the difficulty is that I don't live in Rochester anymore. I did live there, but I don't presently. So, and Rochester doesn't really have a peace group per se. So we're working with Chapter 23 Veterans for Peace because our peace group is allied with them. And we have worked in the county I live in is Livingston County, New York. The town of Geneseo is the county seat, and we've worked with the mayor there. One of our group members has worked with her to get her to become, to sign the Mayors for Peace, to sign up for that. And she has not yet. She's now an outgoing mayor. And so I'm also hoping to work on her as her, legacy, that she can do that on the way out the door, because it stands even after she's gone, unless somebody works to change that. So those are the things that we're working on. And we did have an event on the 22nd, and we had 15 people in the freezing cold, Veterans for Peace and Genesee Valley Citizens for Peace. And we had an ad in the newspaper, we had Facebook coverage, we had media coverage, and we have shared with our mailing list of about 300 letters to send to Gillibrand and Schumer, pressing them on this issue, based on the template that were in the ORIPA resource list. So that's where we're at.
Yeah. Holly, I got an email from Robin, from David Kramer in Brighton, next door to Rochester. And one of the council members, Robin Wilt, I believe she's on the council in Rochester. My daughter goes to University of Rochester Medical School. So I'm connected up there. So give me, how can I send you some information, email?
I can, you want me to put my email in the chat?
Okay, so if you don't mind, sure. Or I can put mine in there. But yeah, I'd like to connect you with these people.
Because you've emailed me things.
Oh, that's right.
So I can send you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it to you, and maybe that'll be helpful to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
And I was born in Rochester, but that was a long, long time ago. And even left Geneva in, second grade. So thank you for what you're doing.
Joan, do you think that gives you any power with the city council?
There you go. Yeah, right. Hey, 79 years ago, I was born there. So get with it.
Yeah, right.
Oh, dear.
Okay, everybody save the chat.
Yes, once again.
I just posted in there something new that we're doing in the Wilkes Disarm, which is encouraging people to post to the White House, contact the president line, and I can put the email, the website there, about Ukraine, because things are getting really scary. And this, I'm putting the link to where you can do that below what I just wrote.
Right. I wrote to him the other day you do it through the White House, and they ask you all kinds of questions to make sure you're a real person and they know where you're situated and everything. Anyway, I got an answer. I got a reply 2 days later. I printed it out. I can't remember. Him praising himself for what he's done. Anyways, I think it was saying all the things he didn't do in his first year that he ought to have done. I think it was a Code Pink. I used Code Pink's template and then I just changed it a bit. Anyway, they must have an enormous number of people dealing with these. Can you imagine how many thousands of emails the White House gets every day?
It was interesting today in the meeting that on the webinar of Code Pink that they also put in the very few hours on Tuesday and Thursday that the White House line is open.
Oh.
It was from 11 to 3, Tuesday to Thursday.
That's if you want to leave a voicemail.
Yeah, right. I'm calling, right.
Otherwise it's an email that you're sending.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
One of the things that's concerned me about this Ukraine situation is that historically, when administrations get into tough situations with their domestic program, they start looking around for a war to start.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
I thought it was interesting when Colonel Wilkerson called out Blinken and maybe somebody else as probably the two most inept diplomats he's seen in his career.
wonderful.
Bye-bye, Susan.
Well, I think we're at the end of our agenda and we've got a next meeting date. So I think it might be time to adjourn. Anybody else have anything for the good of the order before we do? Seeing none, I'll hit the gavel and call this meeting adjourned.
Okay.